Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stillhorn, your practical astrologer, and today we are talking about the full moon. It's on June 11th, it's at 20 degrees of Sagittarius, and it is making a square to the north node and a square to the south node, which means that we're all at a crossroads, and we need to make a choice. We're going to talk about that, we're going to talk about love and money predictions, and at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about one of your four money houses and how to draw money. So the north node and the south node are this continuous strand of energy. The south node represents your past lives, and what you need to release so that you can move forward. The north node represents where you're heading, and if you head in that direction, you find success and happiness. But the temptation is to stay in the south node because it's familiar, and for a while it will feel safe and certain. But over time, this energy just disintegrates and you're left with nothing. So this full moon is sitting square the north node and square the south node. So kind of picture yourself at a T intersection, and you have a choice. You can go towards the south node or you can go towards the north node. Now the south node is in Virgo, so that means that it represents the patterns that you know, the routines you know, the schedule that you know, and so that's like making the same breakfast every morning, it's driving the same route to work, talking to the same people, that, so that it does, again, feel somewhat safe and comfortable, but it's not going to help you grow, it's not going to help you achieve your goals. Now the north node is in Pisces, and Pisces is this force for creation. So if you think of Aries as being the first sign, Pisces is right before that. So Pisces is the idea or the vision that you have that then things get created out of. And so Pisces is this more holistic view of things. It goes beyond like making a living, and it's about living well. It goes beyond how you describe yourselves, and the groups that you belong to, and all the little identifications, and it reminds you that you're part of the universe. And being part of the universe means you can tap into the abundance that's there. So you're at this crossroads now with a choice of exploring something new and investigating that idea and seeing if you can take this vision and turn it into reality. Or you can choose the south node, which is doing the same things you've done before and being in that same routine and stuck in those chores and those endless tasks. Now, that's not to say that laundry doesn't need to get done and dishes don't need to be washed. Those things do need to happen, but this is where you don't make it your entire existence, that you carve out a little bit of time, even just a few minutes a day, so that you can work on the things that are going to bring you real happiness. So this is full moon energy. So it is the busiest time of the whole lunar cycle. And so you're busier now than even usual, which is saying a lot. But you want to stop for a moment and just picture what you want for future cycles. You want to think about maybe what you want to get going on the new moon in a couple of weeks. And if you would like to know what's ahead for you in 2025 and 2026, I do readings. These are live readings by Zoom where we go through your chart, your questions, you can record this session, and so there is a link in the description that gives you more information. Okay, Gemini, this full moon is lighting up your area of partnerships, connections, collaborations, all of the people out in the world that you could meet that could be helpful, or they could be new relationships. So there's all this good energy for this. And then the south node is sitting at the base of your chart saying, I just want to stay home. I just want to do what's familiar. I just want to hang out with my buds. I don't want to go meet with people. And the north node is out there being social and connecting, and so of course that's the direction to go, is to try to put yourself in new situations where you can meet people, go to a convention, a conference, go to a meetup group, go say yes to a social invitation, but go meet new people, and then you can make some great connections. Now, when we actually zero in on your relationship houses, we have a connection between Mercury and Jupiter, and so again, it is very strong for you right now with your existing love relationship or meeting somebody new, the energy is right there that you can make a connection, and you can find shared interests, shared goals, that you can find the vocabulary to understand each other. So this is very good energy for relationships overall for you. Now, when it comes to your money, you're doing some really extraordinary energy. You pull money from the moon, which is in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, which is in a money house, and in Cancer now, which is ruled by the moon. So what we have here is the moon and Jupiter in mutual reception. And that means that as you go out to get some money, then it just kind of creates this loop, and so it starts to bring you opportunities all by itself. So this is a really great time if you are launching something, if you're making an announcement, if you are doing things for your business or for your career. This is a great money time for you. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, there's a strong connection here for you treating it like a job, treating it like your career, getting serious about your side business or getting serious about your investments to really make money. Now, you show most of the profits are going to be outside this 2-week period, but that they could be substantial. So this is a time where if you've been kind of, dilly-dallying about your business website or looking at your investments, this is a time to get serious about it so that you can get ready for when the flow really happens. And then when it comes to money derived from career, so that would be a paycheck, the moon's making a trine tomorrow, so you have really strong energy for getting something done there as well. Now, the interesting thing about a trine is you have to take some sort of action. So if you don't, you might get maybe get a little bonus or a pat on the back or something like that. But if you actually want to make some progress financially, this is the time to say, I know you've been thinking about giving me a raise. Now's the time to do it. Especially if you are looking for a new job, this is a great time to negotiate for a better salary. Welcome to the third section of this video, where I'm going to make a couple of announcements, and then we're going to talk about one of your 4 money houses and how to draw money to you. The new month wishes class is on June 1st. It's at 12 p.m. Pacific time, and now there is a much easier way to register for this class. So just click on the link in the description to register. This is a free class. There's a link in the description. Also, I have some that doesn't matter, because sometimes planets can bring some benefits, but sometimes they can bring some real challenges. So the most important thing is to work with the energies. So when you're looking at your chart, the line that sits between the first house and the second house is called the second house cusp. Now, I use a house system called Placidus, and there are about 20 house systems out there. This one that I use is probably the most popular one used by modern astrologers, and I think it gives you the most accurate information. And so when you're running your chart, if you're using one of those free apps, set the house system to Placidus. That's going to give you the most information about your money. So your second house cusp, that line between the first house and the second house, has a sign at the end of it, so on the outer part of the wheel. And that sign is quite important. Now, I've been going out and doing some teaching lately, and I've seen people using apps that don't have the sign printed at the end of the cusp. And so if that's the case with your chart, you have to go to the list that it gives you. Hopefully it gives you a list. And if it doesn't, or if you're not sure, you can send me an email and I will send you a copy of your chart. There's a link in the description. So that sign on the second house cusp actually shows you how you handle money. And the ruler of that sign shows you where you are pulling money from. So, but let's first focus on the sign itself and how you handle money. If you have Aries on the second house, you want to make your money quickly, you want to make your own money, and any sort of obstacle can frustrate you. And so that can make it difficult sometimes if you are starting a business or doing something that takes a lot of time. So for you, the best thing would be to break things down into very small increments so that you could be constantly doing these new tasks so that you could build something toward revenue. If you have Taurus on the second house, then you feel that you want this comfortable environment. You want to have the tangible things that represent money. And so that can be why you go shopping, so that you can have these items, because that makes you feel safe and secure. But you could also feel quite comfortable by having large amounts in your accounts. And so by shifting your mindset towards, I don't need this physical item, I need those physical dollars in my account, then you can start to accumulate. Now, if you have Gemini on the second house, then you talk about money, you think about money, you may shift back and forth from some very practical investments to some wild schemes. And so, but a lot of the money activity is going on in your head, and it needs to come down into the practical world. And so it's very important when you're having all of these ideas about how to make money is to pick something, or better still for Gemini, pick two things so that you can work on those things, toggling back and forth. Now, if you have Cancer on the second house, you are very sensitive to the fluctuations of your money. And that's because Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon grows and shrinks every month. And so you need to recognize that there are patterns in how your money flows, that sometimes it's flowing in and sometimes it's just a little trickle. Or that sometimes your bills are manageable, but sometimes they're bigger. And as you recognize the cycles of things, then you get into the flow, and money can come in, and you can feel more comfortable. You also do need to be aware that your family, and that can be extended family, can either step in to help or hinder your progress. And so you want to make sure that you're allowing family to help, but also creating some boundaries if your family is hindering your progress. Now, if you have Leo in the second house, then you have this sort of identity tied up with money. And that means that as you're creative, as you express yourself, more money can come in. Now, it's actually that money is one of your talents. So now it's also true, though, that with Leo in the second house, that you like to make a grand display, and so you are more likely to buy friends presents or to be lavishly giving gifts to family members. So you're quite generous, and that's wonderful, but it's also, you want to make sure that you have enough before you start giving it away. So the bottom line here is that using your creative talents, you can bring in the money. Now, if you have Virgo in the second house, you're quite careful with your money. You are looking at the dollars as well as the pennies, and that's good. Of course, you want to be aware that how much the other things can cost you, so you don't want to drive clear across town to save a few pennies on gas. Obviously. So you also are quite good at keeping track of money, and as you do, more money comes. As you pay attention to your investments, as you open your statements and look through these things, you will find that you have more and more money growing. Now, if you have Libra on the second house, sometimes you're more interested in the balance of things, and that could be work-life balance, or the balance of, somebody gives you something, so you want to give them something, and so you're more interested in fairness than actually making money. And so if money is very important to you, if you're really needing it, you're going to have to skew that balance until you in your mind see it as balanced. And sometimes that's just looking at things differently. When you think of how much somebody else might be making versus yourself, then perhaps some balance is achieved. So this is also, with Libra, you could tend to maybe skimp on some of the necessities so that you can buy the things that you really want. If you have Scorpio on the second house, then you're very interested in money, and you probably want to do some sort of investing or create some passive income. It is likely that you have some hidden money that you keep for emergencies, maybe something that your spouse doesn't even know about, and you also have the hopes that you can make a lump sum of money or have a big win. If you have Sagittarius there, you can be a little cavalier about your money and money management. it's the Sagittarius gives you some luck, but because you have luck, it sometimes doesn't give you the push to go make more. It's like you were a little bit short for rent, but then you reach in your pocket, you find $100 and rent is made. Versus you saying, okay, I have all of these skills and intelligence and cleverness, I could go make more money, but why? When luck just seems to happen. If you have Capricorn on the second house, you work hard for your money. And money seems to come in slowly, it feels like it comes in small amounts, until one day you look around and you have much more than everyone else around you. So one of the things, the benefits that this is because it gives you the impression you have to work so hard, you are constantly working for it, and you do have more ability to bring it in. So, but it can feel like it's drudgery, and so it's necessary for you to go in and every once in a while and make sure that you know that you are doing well, that you are, that money is coming in on a regular basis and that it is accumulating. Now, if you have Aquarius on the second house, then money can come in unexpectedly, or that money can go out unexpectedly. So this is that your income will fluctuate or your expenses will fluctuate. So if you have a job where there's some sort of commission or bonus structure, or you have a side business so that sometimes it's up and sometimes it's down, it's very harmonious with that Aquarius energy. If you're on a fixed income or you get a regular paycheck, then your bills can fluctuate, and it's very necessary that you have some sort of sinking fund. With Aquarius on the second house also, you tend to make what your peers make. And so if you want to make more money, you find richer friends. So if you have Pisces in the second house, then you have one of two directions you're going to go. You either are hyper-focused on money or you ignore money. And so this is that, and so money can flow in and it flows out, and money can slip through your fingers, and this is changed by recognizing any spiritual blocks that you have towards money. If you're angry with money, if you feel frustrated, if you can shift that to become in harmony with the energy of money, then money can flow in. And that's done through spiritual means, things like prayer, meditation, journaling, affirmations, and that's something we'll talk about in future videos. Now, there is much more to know about your money houses, and if you would like all of this information, I have a video course called Finding the Hidden Money in Your Chart. There is a link.
Hello beautiful people, Lada's audience, astrologers, astrology enthusiasts, everyone, and welcome to this on my own. Hello beautiful people, Lada's audience, astrologers, astrology enthusiasts, everyone, and welcome to this on my own video, because Lada had personal engagements, and with that I would like to give a big thank you to Lada for allowing me to present this video on my own and giving me the opportunity to talk about Saturn in Aries. And with other housekeepings that I would like to mention before we dive into the topic is that me and Lada agreed to, in honor of Saturn moving into the sign of Aries, which by the time you're watching this, Saturn already is in the sign of Aries, we are offering 22% discount on all my services, because 22 master number frequency and also adds up to number 4, which is the Saturn number, and this will be available on Lada's website for the upcoming 2 weeks, so you can check out all the details. The link will be in the description. So with that, I already tuned in, I have a lot of charts ready, I called in my spirit team and everybody for help, because there is a lot to unpack with Saturn in the sign of Aries. And of course, I want to make Saturn proud. And let's just start there. Saturn, what is Saturn? Saturn from evolutionary astrology perspective, which is the perspective that I offer. And also, you know, we're working with all my guides, so a lot of spirituality. Oh yeah, and before I go any further, last housekeeping note. Okay, guys, everybody who watched me before knows that I speak fast. That's because when I go into my channeling state, I don't censor the information. So in order to get as much information crammed in without my ego getting in, I talk fast. So before I go any further, if you would like to lower the speed, is this possible in the settings on YouTube? Do it now, because it might get fast. I don't know, maybe not, because we're talking about Saturn and Saturn might restrict. So yeah, let's go back to Saturn. What is Saturn? Saturn archetypally, from evolutionary astrology perspective, is the structure of reality. It's the manifested form. You know, we have all these 9 zodiacal signs before, and of course after Saturn we just have Aquarius and Pisces, which is technically what we're playing with here, because Pluto, as the soul's desire for incarnation and our evolution, it's in the sign of Aquarius. So after Capricorn, which is where Pluto ended his stint in Capricorn throughout 2008 to last year, November 2024, Pluto is done with Capricorn. So it's saying that, okay, the structure of reality as we experience it at the moment, it's still there, right? Because the manifested form, the physical manifestation or any manifesting process is the final stage of the manifesting process. So the form is still there, right? But everything that we see manifesting in our reality is the outcome of the past, right? And because this is a topic of Saturn moving into the sign of Aries and being there for the next 3 years until 2028, and I have all the dates ready for you, we are going to be seeing the form changing, because Aries is the beginning of a new cycle. I'm actually pre-recording this with Moon in the sign of Aries. So we are beginning a new cycles over here, and we might not like it, we might not agree with it, we might not feel great about it, but it is what it is. Evolutionary wise, this is where we at. All the planetary energies are supporting this process, and we can either resist it or we can just make the most out of it. So with Saturn as the structure of the reality, as the authority, as the chronos, moving into the sign of Aries, things are going to change. This is kind of like initiation of the restructuring of the system we are experiencing at the moment, because Saturn is all the systems, right? So with Saturn ending the Pisces, and we have the retrograde. So, you know, just to give you the dates, guys, obviously Saturn didn't just turn up in Aries for the first time ever. Saturn was in the sign of Aries between 1996 and 1999. There was the, you know, retrograde back into the sign of Pisces in 1998. But Saturn is now moving into the sign of Aries for the first time, 24th or 25th of May, depending where you are in the world, and will remain there until 1st of September 2025. And it's also interesting because Saturn moves are going to be connected to eclipses, because in September we will have the eclipse in Pisces, not even a week after Saturn moves back into the sign of Pisces. And then Saturn will re-enter the sign of Aries again on 13th or 14th of February 2026, depending where you are in the world. And on the 17th of February, we will have the very first eclipse in the sign of Aquarius. It will be the solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius. And as I already mentioned, Saturn will remain in the sign of Aries for this time around until April 2028, 12th or the 13th, depending where you are in the world again. And then Saturn will not return back into the sign of Aries until March 2055, 23rd of March 2055, and will remain there until January 2058. So by that point, the world will look very differently for sure. And in between, and this is important information to mention, Saturn will have another conjunction with Pluto, and that will be in throughout 2053 and 2054, but the first one will be on 15th of June 2053, and it will be in the sign of Pisces. On this will be on 14 degrees, so second weekend of Pisces, and that's all about Cancer, creating a new identity, because Cancer and Capricorn, they come as a pair. So again, Capricorn, Saturn ruled by Saturn, structure of reality. Cancer is all about how do we feel, and that will then determine the reality we are experiencing, because this is how the law of attraction works. We don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. So anyway, guys, let me just share the screen so you can actually see what I'm talking about here. And I have tons of charts ready, so we can dive in nice, juicy. and let's see where this is going to take us. So yeah, I have some things marked over here because there are some resemblances. So yeah, so this is when Saturn moved into Aries last time, first time last time in the last cycle, and that was on 7th of April 1966. Sorry, 1996, not 1966, I'll take it back. And we can see at the time Pluto was in the sign of Sagittarius, Moon was also in the sign of Sagittarius, 0 degrees. And we had a lot of different things going on there. Neptune at the time was in Capricorn, Uranus was in the sign of Aquarius. This was right after their conjunction, which took place in the sign of Capricorn, also Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn. So this was all about restructuring. A lot of Aries, obviously a lot of initiation at the time. And interestingly enough, the South Node was in the sign of Aries. We had just North Node in the sign of Aries until recently, until January this year. We're talking about 2025 over here. So yeah, so you can see there were a lot of squares, which means that there was a lot of pressure for change. Also Pluto in opposition with Venus. Okay, I don't want to go into too much of an interpretation of these old charts, but you know, just to give you an idea, obviously what was going on at the time. Pluto was in Sag, Neptune was in Capricorn, Uranus was in the sign of Aquarius. And why I have this chart marked, you might see here, is because during the time of Saturn ingressing into the sign of Aries in 1996, Uranus was on 4 degrees 10 minutes. And now in next year, just before the eclipse in Aquarius, we're gonna have Pluto almost at the same place. 4 degrees 06 minutes. At the time it was 4 degrees 10 minutes. So just, you know, just a little thing for my geeky brain to geek on. Okay, and then Saturn exited the sign of Aries during the time in 1999. And this was, where is Saturn over here? Oh yeah, here, 0 degrees 00 minutes of Taurus. And at the time we had the North Node in Leo, South Node in Aquarius. And you can see again, I have a little marker here, because when Saturn will enter Aries the next time after this time, in 1955, we're gonna have the North Node in the sign of Leo. Not in the sign of Leo, just like it was here. So anyway, so these are just little, you know, little things that might interest people if they're geeky enough. And yeah, we had already at the time of Saturn exiting Aries last time in 1999, both Neptune and Uranus in the sign of Aquarius, of course Pluto still in the sign of Sagittarius at the time. Okay, so this is the present moment in time, 25th of May 2025. For some folks it's still happening on the 24th if you are in the US, because this is fairly early hours in the morning. I have the London chart here. So yeah, so we're going to dive into this one. Obviously, as many of us are aware, this is happening, or happened, because by the time watching this already happened, right before the new moon in Gemini, which is a very significant new moon because we are seeing a new timelines at this time. And then just to show you, the next time Saturn will re-enter Pisces, 1st of September 2025, as I already mentioned, will be right before the eclipse in Pisces, and then return back on February 14, 2026, and remain there until 13th of April 2028. And yeah, by then we will have everybody in the new positions. And the nodes, interestingly enough, the North Node will be in the sign of Capricorn with Saturn on 0 degrees of Taurus. So this is all about foundations, because now when we have a Saturn moving into the sign of Aries and coming into this conjunction with Neptune, which is not taking place until late February 2022, 22nd of February 2026, yeah, 22nd of February 2026, so right after the eclipse in Aquarius. So yeah, so we have this obviously stellium in Aries, but what we are focusing on especially is this Gemini, because we are in Gemini season. We are coming towards the new moon in Gemini. By the time you're watching this, it already have happened, and this is all about seeding the new timeline. So Saturn as the Chronos, as the structure of reality, moving into the sign of Aries right before the Gemini new moon, and at the time of Saturn moving, Mercury as the ruler of Gemini was still in Taurus on Capricorn Decan 4. This is a Cancerian degree, and also Sun was on Cancerian degree 4 degrees. So this is again about creating a new identity for yourself, for you as a conscious creator of reality, because this is technically what the Saturn moving into Aries is all about. It is all about, right? Because the timelines are shifting, you know. With Pluto now in the sign of Aquarius, this is all about breaking of the old pattern. So in a sense, we're going back to the ancient times, which the times were so old and they're becoming new. There is a lot of remembrance of these ancient times of Atlantis, Lemuria. A lot of people, you know, like getting a little bit worried because like, you know, we've been here before, you know, what's going to happen this time. but obviously everything has changed. We've gone through these thousands and thousands of years of evolution, so we are not who we were. This is all about this Cancer. Mars until recently, until end of February, was retrograde in Cancer from Leo. So our sense of purpose is changing. Our sense of experiencing reality is changing. And for that, also how we perceive authority and the reality that we are perceiving is changing, right? Jupiter at this time still in the sign of Gemini. This is the final degrees of Gemini, which is the Aquarian decan. Actually, on the day when Saturn has moved, by the time we're watching this, into the sign of Aries, Jupiter was on Taurus degree. So it's again about foundation of the choice that is going to create this future timeline, because it's not going to be the same for everyone. This is the beauty of Aquarius, the individuation, authenticity. It is not going to be the same for everyone. And also with the North Node being in the sign of Pisces, obviously both Saturn and Neptune already had a conjunction with North Node in Pisces. So this is all about new phase conjunction, new cycle has begun, which is of a deeper meaning. So with this topic of the Aquarian age, Pluto in Aquarius, Saturn moving into Aries, Neptune moving into Aries, and shortly, in 2 months' time, Uranus will follow and move into the sign of Gemini. These are all young energy, all energy of going forward, creativity, creating something new. Even though Chiron next year will move into the sign of Taurus, which is the key, will be in the foundation of you, who you are becoming. So the main topic of Saturn moving into the sign of Aries is initiation of you becoming the conscious creator of your reality. Because with the Aquarius, the desire is for freedom, is for authenticity, is for just being able to be who I am and experience the life that makes me happy, right? With these Leo qualities, right? And also the last chart, that I have here is when Pluto will move into the sign of Aries, just like Saturn is moving now. When Pluto will be on these analytic degrees of Aries for the first time, it will be 17th of June 2066. And we can see Saturn at the time will be in the sign of Leo. So this is again just another geeky information to throw in there. So we are going back to May 25th, 2025. Today Saturn is moving into the 0 degrees of Aries. We are being initiated into choosing the timeline that are in alignment with this Aquarian age, which is about you creating the reality that you want to be experiencing, because nobody on this planet, there are not two people that are experiencing the world exactly the same way, because we all have our filter, our own perception, that comes from our experience, our programming, our conditioning, our wounding or heal wounding. There's there are a lot of factors that influence. Like you can have two people observing the same situation, experiencing it very differently and creating a very different opinion or story about it. That's why when you have people passing stories onto each other, by the time it gets to the 10th person, the story has completely changed, right? Because everybody is perceiving, feeling and experiencing reality differently. So this is all to do with this Cancer. Who are you becoming? With this Mars now being in the sign of Leo, Leo, just like Saturn will be by the time Pluto gets to Aries in 2066. So Mars being in the sign of Leo post-retrograde, which was from Leo to Cancer, our desire for how we want to experience this reality and how we want to feel experiencing this reality has changed. Also with Venus being in the sign of Aries, she's coming towards the conjunction with Chiron. Chiron is the key between Saturn and Uranus. Saturn is in the sign of Aries. Uranus is on the final degrees of Taurus, moving into Gemini shortly, right? In the new Mercury in the new phase conjunction. They just had a conjunction actually a day before. So yeah, so we have all these topics that are building up towards the same thing. That is about what reality do we want to create and experience that would make you feel free, that would make you feel liberated, that would make you feel happy. And the only way you can create that reality is by becoming the creator of it. And you have always been the creator of it, although in many cases this is a subconscious creation, because many of us are unaware how these things work. Obviously people in charge of the world, they are very well aware, which is why they use all different tools and techniques to get people the mass consciousness to create what they desire, right? What they desire. because when we focus on something and we believe it and we put emotion behind it, then it's going to manifest. And with Uranus moving into the sign of Gemini this summer, things are going to start manifesting very quickly. The timelines are going to start shifting very quickly, and yeah, even from now, but hopefully more tangibly from the time that Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini in July this year, we will start experiencing the frequencies of 2026, which is the year of the reset, 226, right? The number 10, the Wheel of Fortune, and the 0 and the 1, the Fool and the Magician. So going back to Saturn in Aries and what all of this means, especially whilst Venus as the relational planet, right? How we connect with reality, how we relate to one another, how we relate to ourselves. Well, that is the that is the foundation. That is the most important thing. How we relating to ourselves. Interestingly enough, she's on 18 degrees, which is the 9. Which is the year we are at, the culmination, the endings. And we know that all of these planets, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, they're all going to have their retrogrades back into the old sign, as I already mentioned. For Saturn, it will be right before the eclipse season, right, on September 1st, right? September 1st, which was technically the day Pluto moved into the sign of Capricorn for the final time last year, about the same time, because it was right before the new moon in Virgo, which took place on September 2nd. So this will be when everything goes retrograde. Saturn will be retrograde, Neptune will be already retrograde, but still in the sign of Aries. Uranus will not yet be retrograde, but already in the sign of Gemini. So that is again about the choice, trine in Pluto, choice. What choices are we making? Almost exact trine, already the same degree. So going back to Saturn in Aries. So guys, if we want to create the reality that we want, then we have to be the conscious creators of it. So this is really how it works, because again, based on the quantum physics and also the quantum field and the law of attraction and law of manifestation, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. So if you want to attract and experience the reality that you want, then you have to become a frequency match to it. And in that case, you have to put your Capricorn hat on, your Saturnian hat on, and say like, okay, I'm going to create it by becoming it. Because again, we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. So we have to become it. We already have to feel, and this is teachings of Dr. Joe Dispenza. You can, if you don't follow the guy, I highly recommend it, because this is the best resource, one of the best resources. Okay, let's not put him on a pedestal. One of the best resources you can find with regards to the energies we are experiencing at the moment, with all of these craziness that's going on with Saturn, Neptune in Aries, Uranus moving into Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius. Because this is it. This is actually it. Now we're coming out of the time and age, with these Pisces endings, right? North Node still in a sign of Pisces until summer next year, which is, when it's going to shift into the North Node into the sign of Aquarius, and then have conjunction with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, North Node with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius in 2027. So we are preparing for releasing these old contracts, right? And this is individually and collectively, because we've been doing the same thing. Like, obviously we've been growing, evolving, progressing, but we've been doing the same thing for thousands of years, because this is what the program says. Whether the program came from religion, culture, conditioning, the history that we were being fed, that this is how it was, this is what happened, which, obviously questionable, because again, it's perception of the reality of the person that, wrote the story, right? Or whatever. Anyway, let's not go into those rabbit holes, but, everything is questionable, because with Sagittarius, it's all mutable energy, and Jupiter at the moment is in the sign of Gemini, and is in Aquarian Decan, and current, at the time of this chart on Taurus degree, which is saying, no, that you have to choose what you want to break free from based on what holds a value to you, your foundation. Mercury in a sign of Taurus, actually in Capricorn Decan, already Uranus in Capricorn Decan as well. So we're breaking free from the external authority, from the external structure. And this is what Saturn is initiating us into. So whether you want or not, this is what Saturn is initiating, because if we allow this external authority, our projection that, oh, there is someone out there, whether it's a, government, whether it's a god, whether it's astrology, whether it's a deity, whether it's whatever it is, something outside of you, whether you think this thing is in charge of your life and controlling your life and ruling your life, and oh my God, I have all this karma from past life that because of which I'm suffering or whatever, then you will never feel free. You will never feel free, right? Because the only way to become free is to believe and feel that I am creating all of this. And yeah, obviously we can get into argument about, well, destiny and fate and all of that, but that's just your higher self, and your higher self and you is connected, right? Because you are the physical manifestation of the aspect of your source, of your soul, which is the aspect of the source. Everything is interconnected. So we know whether we are in alignment with where we want to go by how we feel. This is the Cancer, this is what this Mars going through, Cancer retrograde was helping us to learn to embody, to learn to understand that, okay, tune deep within, even though, we know that from the traditional astrology perspective, Mars in the sign of Cancer is in its fall, right? Because in exaltation in Capricorn, same as for Saturn now, Saturn is exalted in Libra. So we can say, okay, well, Saturn in Aries is not a good place for us because, it's going to be in a fall for the next 3 years. But we don't, again, what do you want to believe? Do you really want to believe that? Do you think for the next 3 years we are all doomed because Saturn is in Aries and is the position of his fall? I mean, seriously, after thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years of human evolution, we still want to believe that? And it's not like, well, it's like, well, you might fall on your butt because this is the truth, right? Is again, well, whatever you believe, you attract the proof for. So if this is what you believe, then yeah, you will find a proof for it. But if you are the conscious creator of your reality, you can choose what you want to believe, right? So again, going back to Saturn in Aries, which is trining by the element is by the element is trying the Sagittarius and the Leo, and I mean, obviously Mars being a sign of Leo, still, well, I mean, kind of already out of the opposition with Pluto, but have been opposing Pluto for a long time. This is trying to bridge the gap between where we were and where we're going, right? With the Sun currently the ruler of Mars being in the sign of Gemini, you decide where you're going. Build up towards new moon in Gemini, right, which I have here. New moon in Gemini, right? 27th, well, for many folks it happened on 26th, but obviously, I'm in Europe now, so 27th for me. So this is again post, this have already happened by the time you're watching this, but again, we're talking about new moon in Gemini, with Saturn already on 0 degrees, analytic degree, 8 minutes, 8, the number of Scorpio, the number of transformation, transmutation, right? And Venus Chiron conjunction over here, right? And Mercury in a new phase to Uranus, and very, very active participant to this new moon trine by Pluto, and also Mercury Pluto trine happening later on 27th on the same day. And yeah, there is an inconjunction, South Node to Chiron, right? And also Lilith to Venus, because we don't know because where we going, we haven't been before. We haven't been before because for all these thousands of years, just like I said now, like we believe that, oh yeah, it's the astrology, it's the Saturn, it's the Mars, it's the Venus, it's Jupiter, it's always somebody else's fault, somebody else's fault, how I'm experiencing my life. But all of these things just generate energy. Because we are all energetic being, electromagnetic being. Our heart is electromagnetic, right? All of these things, they are just, in essence, there is nothing there. There is nothing there, The universe is just a black hole, right? It's just a void. Everything that exists, everything that is in manifestation is a result of something that was once desired, right? It gave it a form. The desire gave it a form. That's why there is this unlimited potential of the universe waiting to be manifest, because majority of things don't yet have a form. So with Saturn moving into Aries and Mars being a sign of Leo as the ruler, and also the ruler of Neptune, it's saying the source desire changed, okay? Pluto is now in Aquarius, same with breaking patterns, like this. Pluto is now in Capricorn, Saturn now in Aries, out of Pisces by this point. It's saying, no, we're breaking out of the pattern, okay? We don't want this anymore. We already done Pisces age. Yeah, totality of manifestation is what we learn in Pisces age. That's all we know, the totality of Pisces age. But we already, on, 3 degrees at this stage, but Pluto retrograde, so it's gonna go back to less. But 3 degrees at this time, Pluto in Aquarius, which is the number of creation. In Tarot is the card of Empress, which is the new earth. We are creating new earth. What is this new earth? Well, whatever you choose it to be. So the source desire has changed. It said that, okay, through thousands and thousands and thousands of years of forgetting, we externalize our power to all these things outside of ourselves, right? And then we experience reality based on whatever we believe about all of these externalization and this external authority, But it was necessary because it helped us to survive, It was all about survival at that time. So it was very needed, because otherwise if people had nothing, if they had no religion, not philosophy, no hope, right, then what's the point, right? There will be no meaning to anything. So it did help, it was very useful. But now with Jupiter in Gemini trying, obviously now out of trine with Pluto, but Mercury trine Pluto coming up for the new moon, right? So we have opportunity to choose something different. It's like, okay, well, does this still hold a meaning for you? How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel empowered, disempowered? What's going on here? So with the Saturn moving into Aries, it's saying, well, like now all of these cycles are ending. Okay, well, yes, moving back into Pisces for a few more months from September till February, but all of these cycles are technically ending. So it's saying, well, now we are creating new cycles. Also, as I mentioned, I'm recording this with moon in the sign of Aries. We are creating new cycles, right? And the new cycles are all about, well, what makes you happy, what allows you to feel authentic, in opposition with Pluto. Okay, wide open, but, technically from the sign, still opposition. So it's saying like, well, who were you and where do you want to go? Who do you want to become? So this is where it all gets really trippy, right? Because it's like, well, but this is my life, this is my reality, look at this, I have a proof for it, look at the news, listen to this person, look at that, look at the prices in the shop, like there is the evidence, right? And that's true. 1133, as I said, that 1133 double master number frequency, that is true. But do you want it to be your truth? And again, full disclosure, I am just learning this process just like most people. Okay, there's some people that master the process of manifestation and all of these things, but I not yet. But work in progress over here. So yeah, all I can see in my reality is what I once desired. Is it still in alignment with who I am and who I am becoming? That's a question I have to ask myself, just like all of you with this Gemini new moon. Like, what are you seeing for the future? What choices, what timelines, what experiences? Because Mercury is the messenger, is neutral. It goes like, meh, whatever you decide, I don't mind. I can take you to heaven, to hell. It's up to you. It's the Hermes, the messenger of the gods. So anyway, so Saturn in Aries. Okay, let's go back to Saturn in Aries. So with Saturn in Aries for the next 3 years until Saturn moving to the sign of Taurus, we are being initiated to become a conscious creator of reality. So the external world is going to support us in this process by whatever is going to go out there, which is going to force us that, well, do I really want to do that? Who am I, a child, to be told what to do? Let's just remember last Pluto Saturn conjunction in a sign of Capricorn, right? 2020. And the next one will be in a sign of Pisces. So, all of these that got initiated in 2020 will end, throughout 2053, 2055, 2054, when Pluto is in a sign of Pisces. They're having a conjunction in Pisces, and they are going to be resetting, because as I mentioned, by the time Pluto moves into 000 of Aries, Saturn will be in the sign of Leo. So we can say like, oh my God, but like this is not for another 20, 30 years, that's a long time to wait. Well, you don't have to wait, because again, in order to experience the reality the way you want, you can already tap into it, because after Capricorn there is only Aquarius and Pisces. It's the quantum field and the spirit realm, the invisible. We have to believe that which is not yet manifest more than we believe that which is manifest. That world that you look around and you say, I have the evidence, I have a proof, look at my life, look at the prices, look at the government. Generation, every incarnation, it comes as a bag of goods. It's got better things and more challenging things. And this is evolution. Again, we continuously working on self-improvement or growth. Like you come back over and over and over and again. It's okay. Next time I do it differently. Next time I do it this way. Everything will have changed. So with the Saturn moving into Aries, is initiating us into just taking responsibility for our life and saying like, well, yeah, I can create whatever life I want if I just focus on what I want rather than what I don't want, and put my energy, my life force, my fire into it, into creating it. And it doesn't mean that everything's going to change overnight, and especially not the world as whole is going to change overnight, but your little microcosm will. Like when you bring more into your life that you desire, more of beauty, more of pleasure, more of enjoyment, more of the things that you enjoy, make the time for that class, make the time for that hobby, make the time for that vacation, make the time to go and sit with your friends, whatever it is that you desire that makes you happy. And when we integrate more of these aspects into our everyday reality, then your life will change. Everybody's lives will change. Then people will be happier, and they will be more open, and then they will be more connected to their heart because they gave to themselves. And this is also the Saturn, in Aries, the Aries square in the Libra well, opposing the Libra, squaring the Cancer and Capricorn. If you don't like what you're perceiving, you're the only one who can change it, the Capricorn, the authority. But also with the Cancer, if you don't like who you've been, how you've been perceived, and how people treat you, you are the only one who can change it, through boundaries and stuff. So also Capricorn, Pluto, okay, let's go back. Saturn in Aries is teaching us new boundaries. It's teaching us to say no to things that are not in alignment, no to things that don't make me happy. And yeah, you can, like use the same argument my parents always use, like, well, like you cannot be child forever. The world is not just your playground, like it's not just there for you. But is it really the truth? Because from the spiritual perspective, that's exactly what it is. You are the child of God, you are the child of the universe, and this world is your playground. Okay, it's not all about you, because we are multidimensional beings, and there are multitudes of reasons why we're here, and multitudes of reasons, for our. There are multitudes of reasons for how we are contributing and what's going on in every.
Hi everyone, I'm Gygesz, your practical astrologer, and today we are talking about the full moon. It's on June 11th, it's at 20 degrees of Sagittarius, and it is making a square to the north node and a square to the south node, which means that we're all at a crossroads, and we need to make a choice. We're going to talk about that, we're going to talk about love and money predictions, and at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about one of your 4 money houses and how to draw money. So the north node and the south node are this continuous strand of energy. The south node represents your past lives, and what you need to release so that you can move forward. The north node represents where you're heading, and if you head in that direction, you find success and happiness. But the temptation is to stay in the south node because it's familiar, and for a while it will feel safe and certain. But over time, this energy just disintegrates and you're left with nothing. So this full moon is sitting square the north node and square the south node. So kind of picture yourself at a T intersection, and you have a choice. You can go towards the south node or you can go towards the north node. Now the south node is in Virgo, so that means that it represents the patterns that you know, the routines you know, the schedule that you know. And so that's like making the same breakfast every morning, it's driving the same route to work, talking to the same people, that, so that it does, again, feel somewhat safe and comfortable, but it's not going to help you grow, it's not going to help you achieve your goals. Now the north node is in Pisces, and Pisces is this force for creation. So if you think of Aries as being the first sign, Pisces is right before that. So Pisces is the idea or the vision that you have that then things get created out of. And so Pisces is this more holistic view of things. It goes beyond like making a living, and it's about living well. It goes beyond how you describe yourself, and the groups that you belong to, and all the little identifications, and it reminds you that you're part of the universe. And being part of the universe means you can tap into the abundance that's there. So you're at this crossroads now with a choice of exploring something new and investigating that idea and seeing if you can take this vision and turn it into reality. Or you can choose the south node, which is doing the same things you've done before and being in that same routine and stuck in those chores and those endless tasks. Now, that's not to say that laundry doesn't need to get done and dishes don't need to be washed. Those things do need to happen, but this is where you don't make it your entire existence, that you carve out a little bit of time, even just a few minutes a day, so that you can work on the things that are going to bring you real happiness. So this is full moon energy. So it is the busiest time of the whole lunar cycle, and so you're busier now than even usual, which is saying a lot. But you want to stop for a moment and just picture what you want for future cycles. You want to think about maybe what you want to get going on the new moon in a couple of weeks. And if you would like to know what's ahead for you in 2025 and 2026, I do readings. These are live readings by Zoom where we go through your chart and your questions. You can record this session. And so there is a link in the description that gives you more information. Okay, Leo, this full moon it's in a harmonious sign, it's in a harmonious area of your chart. It really talks about how through your self-expression, that might be your art or your music or whatever it is that you do to express yourself, that energy is coming forth in a very positive way. Now, the South Node is sitting in the area that says, oh, I don't have these abilities and I don't have the resources and I can't do it, and it has this feeling of lack. Or you can choose the North Node that says, I may not have the cash or the guitar or something like that, but I know people who know people who know people, and so I can tap into the resources that are around me and get everything that I need. And so shifting to that abundance mindset is the way to go. So now when it comes to relationships, like your partnership, or new love, or new friendship, this full moon is lighting up one of your relationship houses, so that is extremely good. So there's no aspect, though, going on between Sun and Uranus, so there's a little bit like you're distracted, you're not paying attention, and maybe the person is chasing after you to get to know you, but your head is elsewhere. And so that's something to keep in mind during this time, like maybe that you have an invitation in your inbox and you haven't opened it, you haven't seen it. So, or your partner does want to talk about the thing you want to talk about, but you were busy and distracted. So think about those things, look for them so that you can have them. Now, when it comes to your money, you pull money from Mercury, which is conjunct Jupiter, which means there's an abundance of ideas right now and help from the universe. And that means that if you say to yourself, okay, I want to do this, but I don't know where to start, then you can sit quietly for a moment and different ideas are going to answer that question. Or go take a walk in nature and listen to the trees and the breeze and the birds, and you're going to get some ideas. The amount of help that you're getting from the spiritual right now is huge, and you want to tap into that. Now, when it comes to money from business or from investments, Mercury's making a square to Neptune, which means that as you take action, you win. So, but action is absolutely necessary. That means if there is a mistake on your statement, you need to call your broker. If there is a product that needs to be launched or something going on with your business that needs to be addressed, you need to take the action, and then you have the win. Now, when it comes to money from your career, so that would be a paycheck, Mercury's conjunct Jupiter. That is one of the best placements you're going to get. And so you want to tap into this energy, especially if you've already started talking about getting a raise, if you've already applied for a new job, negotiate with them for a higher salary. This is the time to really grab this opportunity. Welcome to the third section of this video, where I'm going to make a couple of announcements, and then we're going to talk about one of your 4 money houses and how to draw money to you. The new month wishes class is on June 1st. It's at 12 p.m. Pacific time. And now there is a much easier way to register for this class, so just click on the link in the description to register. This is a free class where we talk about the astrological happenings for the month, and then we write our wishes together, and then we energize them together in a short meditation. I know this date and time doesn't work for everyone, but if you can't come but you're interested, sign up anyway, because you will get information about how to write your wishes for the month. Also, if you like astrology and you love black cats, then you're going to love my newsletter. It's an illustrated guide for the happenings of the week, and it's free to sign up. There's a link in the description. Also, I have some videos coming out that are more about the world perspective for some of these major aspects that are happening. These are videos that are members only, and in house, then you talk about money, you think about money, you may shift back and forth from some very practical investments to some wild schemes. And so, but a lot of the money activity is going on in your head, and it needs to come down into the practical world. And so it's very important when you're having all of these ideas about how to make money is to pick something, or better still, for Gemini, pick two things so that you can work on those things, toggling back and forth. Now, if you have Cancer on the second house, you are very sensitive to the fluctuations of your money. And that's because Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon grows and shrinks every month. And so you need to recognize that there are patterns in how your money flows, that sometimes it's flowing in and sometimes it's just a little trickle, or that sometimes your bills are manageable but sometimes they're bigger. And as you recognize the cycles of things, then you get into the flow, and money can come in and you can feel more comfortable. You also do need to be aware that your family, and that can be extended family, can either step in to help or hinder your progress. And so you want to make sure that you're allowing family to help, but also creating some boundaries if your family is hindering your progress. Now, if you have Leo in the second house, then you have this sort of identity tied up with money. And that means that as you're creative, as you express yourself, more money can come in. Now, it's actually that money is one of your talents. So now, it's also true, though, that with Leo in the second house, that you like to make a grand display, and so you are more likely to buy friends presents or to be lavishly giving gifts to family members. So you're quite generous, and that's wonderful, but it's also, you want to make sure that you have enough before you start giving it away. So the bottom line here is that using your creative talents, you can bring in the money. Now, if you have Virgo in the second house, you're quite careful with your money. You are looking at the dollars as well as the pennies, and that's good. Of course, you want to be aware that how much the other things can cost you, so you don't want to drive clear across town to save a few pennies on gas, because obviously. So you also are quite good at keeping track of money, and as you do, more money comes. As you pay attention to your investments, as you open your statements and look through these things, you will find that you have more and more money growing. Now, if you have Libra on the second house, sometimes you're more interested in the balance of things, and that could be work-life balance, or the balance of, somebody gives you something, so you want to give them something, and so you're more interested in fairness than actually making money. And so if money is very important to you, if you're really needing it, you're going to have to skew that balance until you in your mind see it as balanced. And sometimes that's just looking at things differently. When you think of, how much somebody else might be making versus yourself, then perhaps some balance is achieved. So this is also, with Libra, you could tend to maybe skimp on some of the necessities so that you can buy the things that you really want. If you have Scorpio on the second house, then you're very interested in money, and you probably want to do some sort of investing or create some passive income. It is likely that you have some hidden money that you keep for emergencies, maybe something that your spouse doesn't even know about. And you also have the hopes that you can make a lump sum of money, or have
have also allowed researchers to map the internal structures of the pyramid more accurately, offering clues about construction techniques used in its hidden chambers. One recent study used thermal imaging to detect previously unknown anomalies in the pyramid structure, suggesting potential hidden chambers or internal features. Further research is ongoing, with scientists and archaeologists carefully investigating these anomalies to better understand construction methods. Despite significant progress, debates continue over certain alternative theories about pyramid construction. Some researchers propose that ancient Egyptians used concrete-like materials or molded stones to construct portions of the pyramid. They argue that Egyptians had knowledge of simple chemical processes that allowed them to create artificial stone blocks by mixing crushed limestone, sand, and other ingredients. However, extensive geological analysis and archaeological evidence strongly favor natural limestone, quarried and carved directly from local sources, making this concrete theory less widely accepted. Other researchers propose the use of internal hydraulic systems or counterweight mechanisms to lift heavy stones into place. These theories suggest Egyptians used water channels, floats, or counterweights within the pyramid to move blocks upward without external ramps. However, while intriguing, evidence supporting hydraulic or counterweight mechanisms remains limited, and these theories have gained only minimal acceptance among mainstream Egyptologists. In general, mainstream scholars favor explanations grounded in proven archaeological evidence, historical records, and practical engineering principles. The presence of ramps, wooden sleds, ropes, and workers' settlements discovered near Giza provides strong support for conventional explanations involving human labor, ramps, and careful planning. Ultimately, the construction of the Great Pyramid represents one of ancient Egypt's most impressive achievements. It required not just physical effort, but also sophisticated organization, skilled engineering, and careful planning on a massive scale. The pyramid's continued survival after thousands of years testifies to the remarkable skills and dedication of ancient Egyptian architects and laborers. Ongoing research promises further insights into these construction methods, using advanced technologies and careful archaeological study. Each new discovery, from hidden chambers to ancient ramp remains, helps researchers piece together the complex puzzle of how ancient Egyptians built this remarkable monument. While complete certainty about every detail of construction may never be possible, archaeological research and modern engineering simulations continue bringing us closer to understanding the truth. With each discovery, we gain deeper appreciation and respect for the skill, intelligence, and ingenuity that enabled ancient Egyptians to create the Great Pyramid, a monument that still amazes us today, thousands of years after its completion. As we move from the mysteries surrounding the construction of the Great Pyramid, we shift our attention toward another fascinating puzzle, preserved within Egypt's ancient tombs: the intentional defacement of sacred images and inscriptions. Throughout Egypt, archaeologists frequently uncovered tombs, monuments, and statues deliberately damaged, faces chiseled away, names erased, and intricate carvings vandalized. This destruction was not accidental or caused merely by time and nature. Rather, it was intentional vandalism performed by the ancient Egyptians themselves, posing a compelling question historians continue to explore. Why were so many tombs and monuments purposefully defaced? In ancient Egyptian belief, tombs, statues, and inscriptions were much more than mere memorials. They were sacred objects designed to ensure a person's immortality in the afterlife. By carving a person's name, likeness, and achievements into stone, Egyptians believed they preserved that individual's memory forever. Statues, reliefs, and inscriptions held a person's spiritual essence, acting as connections between the living and the divine. Thus, damaging these sacred images was a powerful, deliberate act, never undertaken lightly. One major reason for intentional defacement was political rivalry and changes in leadership. Ancient Egyptian rulers often removed or erased the names and images of their predecessors to assert dominance or legitimize their rule. For example, after Pharaoh Akhenaten's death, his successors actively destroyed references to him throughout Egypt. Akhenaten had controversially attempted to change Egypt's religion by promoting worship of a single deity, the Aten. Following his reign, Egyptian rulers swiftly returned to traditional religious practices. To erase Akhenaten's influence, they systematically defaced statues, monuments, and tomb reliefs depicting him and his family. This political defacement aimed to erase his controversial legacy entirely, symbolically removing him from history. A notable historical example of defacement involves Queen Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's few female rulers. After her death, her stepson and successor, Thutmose III, ordered extensive defacement of her monuments across Egypt. Statues depicting Hatshepsut had their faces meticulously chiseled away, and her cartouches, oval inscriptions bearing her royal names, were systematically erased. The most striking damage is evident at her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, where images and inscriptions commemorating her rule were deliberately removed or covered. Historians generally agree Thutmose III sought to legitimize his rule by removing his stepmother's unconventional reign from historical records. Religious shifts and changes in spiritual beliefs also prompted deliberate defacement. Ancient Egypt experienced periods of religious upheaval during which certain gods or beliefs fell from favor. Temples and tombs dedicated to these rejected gods or beliefs were often intentionally vandalized to diminish their spiritual power. The Amarna period under Akhenaten exemplifies this practice clearly. After Akhenaten's reign, priests and followers of the original gods vigorously defaced Aten-related monuments, systematically eradicating this brief religious experiment. Another motivation behind tomb defacement was personal vengeance or rivalry. Tomb inscriptions, reliefs, and statues often depicted the deceased's family, servants, and officials. Defacing these images could be an act of personal revenge or an attempt to spiritually harm someone. Because Egyptians believed images and names carried powerful magic, damaging them was considered an attack on the individual's afterlife. This kind of targeted destruction was relatively common among powerful families and royal courtiers competing for status and influence. Superstition and fear also played significant roles. Egyptians feared spirits depicted in tombs could become restless or vengeful, causing illness or misfortune. By defacing images or removing names, ancient Egyptians attempted to weaken or eliminate the spirit's ability to interact with the living, protecting themselves from supernatural harm. This practice was often selective, focusing specifically on the eyes, nose, mouth, or hands of statues and reliefs, reflecting the belief that these body parts carried particular spiritual power. Economic and practical motivations occasionally influenced defacement. Grave robbers targeting tombs for valuable items sometimes defaced inscriptions or statues to obscure the identity of the deceased and reduce supernatural consequences. Thieves often believed damaging these images or names prevented spirits from retaliating against them, reflecting widespread superstition about curses or spiritual punishment. A particularly intriguing case of tomb defacement is found in KV 55, a tomb discovered in the Valley of the Kings in 1907. KV 55 contained burial items associated with the controversial Amarna period, including a royal coffin initially designed for Pharaoh Akhenaten himself. The coffin had been significantly defaced. The golden face mask was torn away, royal cartouches scratched out, and identifying inscriptions deliberately damaged, leaving historians uncertain of the occupant's true identity. Scholars believe this intense defacement reflected the deliberate attempt by successors to erase Akhenaten's memory and diminish his spiritual influence. KV 55's defacement thus symbolizes the dramatic religious and political backlash following Akhenaten's attempt to establish monotheism. Yet, despite clear motives identified by archaeologists and historians, many cases of defacement remain unexplained. Occasionally, tombs and monuments display defacement without clear evidence of political rivalry, religious change, or personal vengeance. Scholars suggest these cases might involve internal power struggles or lost historical events, yet undiscovered. Modern archaeological methods have greatly aided researchers in understanding defacement practices. Through detailed photographic documentation, 3D scanning, and careful excavation, archaeologists map patterns of damage, analyzing precisely how and where monuments were intentionally harmed. Advanced imaging technology reveals previously hidden details, enabling historians to identify subtle patterns of damage and understand ancient motives better. Chemical analyses and microscopic examination of damaged surfaces can even distinguish between ancient and recent vandalism, helping researchers reconstruct timelines of defacement events. While defacement initially seems destructive or disrespectful, it provides historians valuable insight into ancient Egypt's political, religious, and social dynamics. The deliberate removal or destruction of images, names, and inscriptions highlights the profound significance Egyptians placed on memory, spiritual energy, and symbolism. It becomes a crucial source of historical information, reflecting power struggles, shifts in belief, and interpersonal rivalries within Egypt's complex society. Egyptian tomb defacement also offers a compelling example of practices mirrored in other civilizations, including Mesopotamia, Greece, Rome, and Mesoamerica, suggesting a broader human impulse to erase rivals, suppress certain beliefs, or neutralize spiritual threats. Studying Egyptian practices thus provides valuable comparative insights. Ultimately, while the precise reasons behind every defacement may remain partially unresolved, the practice vividly illustrates ancient Egyptians' complex relationship with death, memory, and spirituality. Their willingness to deliberately damage sacred monuments emphasizes the seriousness with which Egyptians viewed life after death and historical legacy. As archaeologists continue excavating Egypt's sands and analyzing damaged monuments, our understanding of defacement practices will deepen, bringing us closer to grasping the complex motivations behind these fascinating historical acts. Moving from the mystery surrounding the defacement of tombs, another equally intriguing discovery in Egyptian archaeology is the underwater city of Heraklion, also known as Thonis. Once considered little more than a myth, this lost city was rediscovered beneath the Mediterranean Sea, near Egypt's coastline. Its existence was confirmed only recently, changing our understanding of ancient Egypt and its maritime trade. Heraklion was originally located near the mouth of the Nile, close to what is now Alexandria. Ancient texts, including those written by Greek historians like Herodotus, mentioned this city. They described it as a thriving port, rich and bustling with trade. Despite these historical accounts, the exact location of Heraklion was unclear for centuries, and its reality often doubted. This changed dramatically in the year 2000, when underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio and his team announced a remarkable discovery. While surveying the seabed off Egypt's coast, they found the remains of a large city submerged beneath several meters of water and silt. These remains included impressive statues, enormous temples, coins, pottery, and even shipwrecks, all carefully preserved beneath the sea. The initial discoveries immediately confirmed the city's identity as Heraklion, providing undeniable evidence that the city described by ancient historians was real and had been thriving until disaster struck. The submerged ruins revealed a city layout that matched historical descriptions, including temples, canals, and streets once busy with activity. Researchers quickly realized that Heraklion had played an important role in ancient Egypt. It served as Egypt's gateway to the Mediterranean, a vital maritime hub connecting Egypt with Greece, Cyprus, and other ancient civilizations. Ships docked at its harbor, delivering precious metals, timber, pottery, and luxury goods. In return, Egyptian goods like grain, gold, and papyrus flowed outward, making Heraklion an economic powerhouse. Artifacts recovered from the underwater ruins included objects clearly associated with trade and religious rituals. Stone anchors, shipwrecks, and cargo items revealed extensive maritime activity. Meanwhile, enormous statues of gods like Osiris and Isis, intricately carved from granite, indicated Heraklion's significance as a religious center. Archaeologists also discovered countless offerings made to Egyptian deities, including jewelry, figurines, and ceremonial items. One particularly striking discovery was a massive granite statue of the god Hapi, who symbolized the Nile and fertility. Standing several meters high, it provided strong evidence of Heraclean's religious prominence. Additionally, stone tablets and inscriptions found underwater described rituals and ceremonies performed in the city, further illustrating its religious importance. But one of the greatest mysteries remains how Heracleion ended up submerged beneath the Mediterranean Sea. Geological studies and historical evidence suggest the city was affected by a combination of natural disasters and gradual environmental changes. Experts believe earthquakes, tsunamis, and floods weakened the city's foundations, eventually causing large sections to collapse into the sea. Ancient Egyptian texts reference devastating floods and earthquakes in the region, and modern geological surveys confirm that the Nile Delta region has long experienced subsidence and instability. Over centuries, the ground slowly sank, and rising sea levels submerged entire districts of Heracleion. Eventually, the city was entirely lost beneath the waves, buried under sand, silt, and seawater. This gradual process explains why Heracleion disappeared from historical records so completely. By the time of the Roman Empire, knowledge of its exact location had faded, leaving only vague references and uncertain descriptions. Eventually, Heracleion became a city remembered mainly in legends and ancient texts, its true existence doubted by historians until its recent rediscovery. Modern archaeological explorations continue to shed new light on Heracleion. Frank Gaudio and other underwater archaeologists regularly return to the submerged site, using sophisticated sonar, radar, and imaging technologies to explore and map the city's ruins. These technologies help researchers create detailed maps and digital reconstructions of what Heracleion might have looked like at its peak. One significant find in recent years was the discovery of dozens of shipwrecks within Heracleon's harbor. These wrecks illustrate the scale of trade passing through the city. Some vessels contained Egyptian goods, while others carried cargo from Greece, Phoenicia, and beyond. Studying these ships provides detailed insights into ancient maritime trade networks, economic systems, and shipbuilding techniques. Another major ongoing focus is the careful excavation and preservation of statues and structures buried in sediment. Because seawater and sand protected many artifacts from erosion, researchers can now recover items in remarkably good condition. Excavations have uncovered well-preserved temple columns, statues, stone carvings, and ritual objects that reveal the daily lives, religious practices, and commercial activities in Heracleion. Inscriptions and artifacts also indicate Heracleion's close connection with the city of Canopus, another ancient Egyptian port nearby. Researchers have found evidence of extensive trade and cultural exchange between these two neighboring ports, suggesting that the entire region served as an integrated maritime trading area during ancient Egypt's late period. The discovery of Heracleion has significantly enhanced historians' understanding of ancient Egypt's trade relations with other Mediterranean civilizations, particularly Greece. Greek coins and ceramics recovered from the underwater ruins demonstrate the strong economic ties between Egyptians and Greeks long before the arrival of Alexander the Great. This challenges earlier views that Greek influence in Egypt only began after Alexander's conquest. Moreover, Heracleon's ruins provide important archaeological context for understanding Egyptian religious practices in a maritime environment. Temples and artifacts dedicated to maritime gods reveal how the Egyptians integrated religious rituals and commercial activities, appealing to deities for safe passage, successful trade, and prosperity. The underwater city has also captured the public's imagination, inspiring documentaries, museum exhibitions, and popular fascination worldwide. Exhibits of artifacts recovered from Heracleion have traveled internationally, allowing visitors to see firsthand the stunning craftsmanship and historical importance of this submerged city. Efforts continue to protect and preserve the submerged ruins of Heracleion from environmental damage, looting, and erosion. The Egyptian government, along with international researchers and conservation groups, actively collaborate to ensure the city's artifacts and structures remain safe for future study. As archaeological work progresses, experts hope to uncover even more details about Heracleion's layout, architecture, economy, and daily life. Each new discovery helps fill gaps in historians' understanding, providing a more complete picture of how ancient Egyptians lived, worked, and interacted with the wider Mediterranean world. Despite extensive underwater excavations, large portions of Heracleion still remain unexplored beneath the seabed. Archaeologists believe many more statues, artifacts, shipwrecks, and structures await discovery. Future explorations promise further revelations about this fascinating city, potentially rewriting aspects of ancient Egyptian history. In practical terms, ongoing archaeological research at Heracleion also advances underwater excavation techniques, conservation methods, and archaeological technology. Lessons learned at Heracleion inform projects at other submerged sites worldwide, improving our ability to uncover and preserve history beneath the sea. Ultimately, the rediscovery of Heracleion represents one of the most significant archaeological achievements in recent decades. Its well-preserved ruins and artifacts offer an unparalleled glimpse into an ancient maritime city lost to history for thousands of years. By carefully studying Heracleion, researchers continue to uncover the story of a city that was once a vibrant center of trade, religion, and cultural exchange, a key gateway between ancient Egypt and the wider Mediterranean. As archaeological exploration continues beneath the waters off Egypt's coast, Heracleion promises more fascinating discoveries. Each artifact recovered, each inscription deciphered, provides a clear understanding of this remarkable city, quietly revealing its mysteries and secrets to patient researchers. As we leave behind the submerged mysteries of Heracleion, we return once more to Egypt's windswept sands, home to perhaps its most iconic monument, the Great Sphinx, and the enigmatic Gizeh Plateau. For thousands of years, this remarkable figure has gazed silently toward the eastern horizon, its precise origins and true age still uncertain, even after centuries of investigation and study. While traditional Egyptology confidently places the carving of the Sphinx around 2500 BC during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, certain geological observations and alternative theories have sparked ongoing debates about whether this famous statue might be significantly older than commonly believed. The conventional dating links the Sphinx directly to Pharaoh Khafra, primarily because of its position near Khafre's pyramid, as well as archaeological evidence discovered nearby. Egyptian archaeologists found inscriptions, artifacts, and construction methods matching those known from Khafre's time, providing a straightforward connection to the 4th dynasty of Egypt's Old Kingdom. These traditional interpretations have long stood as the accepted historical context for the Sphinx's creation. Yet in recent decades, certain scientists and geologists have presented compelling arguments suggesting that the Sphinx, and possibly even parts of the Gizeh Plateau, may be far older. The core of this alternative theory rests on geological evidence, specifically unusual patterns of erosion seen on the body and enclosure walls surrounding the Sphinx. According to geologist Dr. Robert Schoch and others, these erosion patterns strongly resemble water-induced weathering rather than typical desert sand erosion. Such water erosion would imply that the Sphinx was carved at a time when heavy rainfall regularly occurred in Egypt, conditions known to have existed thousands of years before Khafre's reign, perhaps as far back as 7000 to 5000 BC, during a wet climatic period known as the African Humid Period. Proponents of this earlier dating argue that the deep grooves and rounded contours on the Sphinx's enclosure walls and body suggest prolonged exposure to rainfall, rather than wind-blown sand erosion that typically shapes monuments in dry desert climates. If accurate, this would indicate that the Sphinx was created by an unknown civilization or culture predating Egypt's traditional dynastic period by several thousand years, challenging many accepted historical timelines. However, mainstream Egyptologists remain cautious and skeptical about this revised dating. They note the lack of clear archaeological evidence supporting such an early date, pointing out that surrounding tombs, artifacts, and other Gizeh structures are consistently dated to the 4th dynasty. They also emphasize that while the geology might seem compelling, geological dating alone isn't enough to conclusively revise the well-established historical timeline. In response, alternative researchers point to the possibility that an older monument or natural formation existed before the Sphinx was reshaped into its current form during Khafra's reign. According to this scenario, earlier erosion could have affected a pre-existing structure or rock formation, which the Egyptians later recarved into the familiar lion-bodied figure with a human head. This compromise theory would reconcile both geological and archaeological evidence, allowing for an earlier origin of the site itself without necessarily contradicting traditional dating of the finished monument. Adding to the complexity, some ancient Egyptian texts and traditions seem to suggest that the Egyptians themselves viewed the Sphinx as ancient even during the Old Kingdom period. The famous dream stele, erected by Pharaoh Thutmose IV between the paws of the Sphinx, more than 1,000 years after Khafra's time, describes the Sphinx as ancient and powerful, suggesting that Egyptians already considered it a monument of considerable antiquity. Some historians interpret these references to mean that the Sphinx was already old and revered, perhaps even mysterious, during the earliest dynastic periods of Egyptian civilization. Further complicating matters are questions surrounding the Giza Plateau itself, which appears to have a longer and more complex history than previously thought. Recent archaeological studies suggest that the area around Giza may have held spiritual significance long before the pyramids were constructed. Ancient burial sites, temples, and ceremonial structures discovered near the plateau indicate that people used the site for sacred purposes thousands of years before Khufu, Khafra, or Menkaura began building their pyramids. These earlier religious practices hint at the possibility that important sites like the Sphinx could have been built upon or integrated into previously sacred areas, further clouding their exact dates of origin. Modern researchers use various scientific tools to investigate this mystery more thoroughly. Ground-penetrating radar, seismic surveys, and geological testing are increasingly employed to study subsurface structures and analyze the plateau's geological history in detail. These technological methods allow scientists to peer beneath the surface without disturbing or damaging sensitive archaeological sites. Recent studies using these methods have indeed revealed previously unknown cavities, tunnels, and anomalies beneath the Sphinx and surrounding areas, opening up new possibilities for further exploration. Yet despite advanced tools and ongoing research, a definitive resolution remains elusive. Mainstream historians continue to support a traditional timeline for the Sphinx, citing a lack of archaeological artifacts or inscriptions clearly pointing to an earlier civilization. Alternative The remarkable scale, precision, and engineering skill evident in these structures clearly required sophisticated organization, resources, and technical knowledge, confirming that Egypt's pharaohs invested great effort and resources into their construction. Historical evidence from Egypt's Old Kingdom further supports the traditional view. Ancient records describe groups of workers organized into carefully managed labor teams, each with specialized roles and responsibilities. Archaeological discoveries around Giza have uncovered extensive evidence of worker settlements, housing, bakeries, breweries, medical facilities, and even evidence of injuries treated by ancient doctors, all indicating that skilled workers, not slaves, constructed the pyramids. These settlements suggest a workforce treated relatively well, provided with adequate food, medical care, and organized living quarters. Artifacts found nearby include tools, ropes, wooden sledges, copper chisels, and construction ramps, evidence clearly demonstrating practical human-based techniques behind pyramid construction. Yet despite overwhelming historical and archaeological evidence, some alternative theories have persisted, suggesting that the pyramid's origins might differ significantly from traditional explanations. Popular imagination and speculative theories have occasionally proposed ideas involving lost civilizations, extraterrestrial beings, or unknown technologies, driven largely by awe and wonder at the pyramid's sheer scale and precision. While these alternative theories are largely discredited by mainstream historians and archaeologists, they highlight how extraordinary the pyramids appear, reflecting their powerful hold on human imagination and curiosity. Another debate surrounds exactly how ancient Egyptians physically constructed these enormous structures. Historians and engineers have proposed several plausible methods based on practical archaeological evidence, historical texts, and experimental archaeology. Most commonly accepted theories involve the use of ramps, either straight, zigzagging, or spiraling, built from mud bricks, rubble, and sand to transport massive stone blocks into place. Teams of laborers likely dragged blocks across slick surfaces of water or oil-lubricated sand, pulling these enormous stones into position using ropes, wooden sledges, and copper tools. Archaeological findings of partially constructed ramps, rope fragments, and wooden sleds near Giza support these traditional construction theories, providing physical evidence of ancient Egyptians' methods. Additionally, recent archaeological discoveries have shed further light on the identity and nature of the laborers who built the pyramids. Excavations conducted near the Giza pyramids in recent decades uncovered a vast cemetery where pyramid workers were buried. Analysis of these burials indicates that pyramid laborers came from all across Egypt, volunteering for seasonal work as part of a national effort involving thousands of ordinary Egyptians. Rather than forced labor or slavery, these findings reveal a workforce willingly participating in pyramid construction as an expression of national pride, religious devotion, and civic duty. Egyptian records refer to these laborers respectfully as friends of Khufu or drunkards of Menkaure, suggesting camaraderie, pride, and a collective identity among the pyramid builders. These archaeological findings also help debunk persistent myths that slaves built the pyramids. Historical records, tomb inscriptions, and archaeological evidence clearly indicate that pyramid builders were skilled, respected, and well-fed laborers, receiving food, medical care, and proper burials as compensation for their hard work. Recent studies of the remains found in worker cemeteries further reinforce these conclusions, showing evidence of good nutrition, proper medical treatment, and even recovery from workplace injuries, further demonstrating the high status and careful management of pyramid workers. Modern archaeologists continue to investigate Giza carefully, using new technologies and methods to deepen understanding. Ground-penetrating radar, laser scans, satellite imaging, and 3D modeling increasingly allow researchers to study pyramid structures and surrounding areas in more detail than ever before. Each new discovery clarifies specific construction methods, logistical organization, and daily life of pyramid workers, incrementally enhancing historical understanding of exactly how and by whom these iconic monuments were built. Despite considerable advances, certain questions still remain open-ended. Scholars continue debating specific construction details, including exact ramp designs, stone lifting techniques, and precise numbers of workers involved. New archaeological excavations regularly uncover fresh evidence that incrementally improves knowledge, but complete certainty about every construction detail may remain elusive. The pyramid's massive scale, precise alignment, and incredible durability remind researchers that ancient Egyptians employed methods and skills perhaps even more sophisticated than currently understood. The recent discovery of ancient papyrus documents at the Red Sea port of Wadi al-Jarf, dating from the reign of Khufu, provides particularly exciting insights. These papyri include detailed logistical records of limestone block shipments transported from quarries to Giza, clearly connecting Khufu's reign directly to the construction process. Such records offer fascinating direct evidence of how Egyptians organized massive construction projects, managed labor teams, and coordinated resources. Continued study of these papyrus texts promises further revelations, enhancing understanding of exactly how Egyptians built these extraordinary structures. Ultimately, historical and archaeological evidence strongly affirms that skilled Egyptian laborers, organized under royal supervision, built the pyramids at Giza. The process involved thousands of ordinary Egyptians working cooperatively on an unprecedented national project, using practical tools, simple yet ingenious construction methods, and careful management. Although certain mysteries and unanswered questions persist, archaeological discoveries continue to incrementally enhance our understanding, gradually resolving debates and dispelling misconceptions. Far from diminishing their wonder, these practical explanations heighten appreciation of the extraordinary achievements of ancient Egyptians, reflecting their remarkable organization, dedication, and ingenuity. Today, the pyramids stand quietly as timeless monuments to human determination, skill, and ambition. While archaeologists continue carefully exploring and investigating, each new discovery brings us closer to fully understanding exactly who built these iconic structures and how. Yet, even as researchers steadily uncover practical truths, the pyramids remain undeniably mysterious and awe-inspiring, symbols of ancient Egypt's power and creativity. Their enduring fascination quietly reminds us how much ancient history still awaits discovery beneath Egypt's sands, patiently holding its secrets, ready for careful exploration to slowly reveal the remarkable human stories behind their construction. Leaving behind the enduring mystery of the pyramids and their master builders, our path now winds gently toward another captivating enigma, the lost necropolis of Pharaoh Amenhotep I. While many ancient Egyptian rulers rest within clearly identified tombs and grand burial complexes, the final resting place of Amenhotep remains notably absent from modern archaeological maps. Hidden beneath the sands and stones of Egypt's timeless landscape, the exact location of his tomb continues to elude scholars, quietly drawing attention and curiosity from Egyptologists and historians alike. Amenhotep I was a prominent pharaoh of Egypt's 18th dynasty, ruling around 1526 to 1506 BC during a period of strength, prosperity, and expansion for ancient Egypt. The son of Ahmozo and Queen Ahmose Nefertari, Amenhotep inherited a stable and unified kingdom from his father, continuing efforts to expand Egypt's territory, maintain diplomatic relations, and initiate significant building projects. Under his rule, Egypt flourished culturally and economically, setting the stage for later rulers such as Hatshepsut and Thutmose III, who further solidified the 18th dynasty's status as a golden age in Egyptian history. Yet despite Amenhotep I's significance and prominence, the location of his original tomb and the broader necropolis associated with his burial remains uncertain. Historical and archaeological evidence clearly indicate that Amenhotep I was buried in a carefully constructed and richly appointed tomb befitting a powerful pharaoh, yet no definitive tomb or burial complex has been identified as belonging specifically to him. Unlike many other kings, whose tombs lie clearly labeled and located within the Valley of the Kings, Amenhotep II's burial place remains a puzzle, shrouded in historical ambiguity and archaeological uncertainty. Ancient historical texts and inscriptions reference Amenhotep I's tomb only indirectly, making it difficult for modern scholars to reconstruct precisely where he was buried. Some historical sources suggest that Amenhotep II's tomb was originally constructed at Dra Abu el Naga, an ancient necropolis located near Thebes, modern Luxor. This area was an important burial ground for royalty and nobility, particularly during the early 18th dynasty. Dra Abu el Naga contains numerous tombs dating from this period, including several belonging to Amenhotep I's contemporaries and officials. Given its historical context, this site seems a logical location for Amenhotep's burial, yet extensive archaeological exploration there has not conclusively identified his tomb. Some historians propose that Amenhotep I's tomb might have been destroyed, reused, or deliberately hidden in antiquity, obscuring its modern discovery. Ancient Egyptians commonly reused or altered tombs for later burials or religious purposes, meaning that the original burial of Amenhotep could have been repurposed or obscured in later centuries. Others speculate that Amenhotep's tomb could lie concealed beneath modern structures or buried beneath shifting sand and debris, awaiting careful excavation and identification. The tomb's potential reuse or deliberate concealment could explain why archaeological exploration thus far has not definitively pinpointed its location. Adding further complexity, historical texts indicate Amenhotep I's mummy itself was later moved by priests during the 21st dynasty. Around 1000 BC, Egypt experienced widespread tomb robberies and unrest, prompting priests and officials to relocate royal mummies from vulnerable tombs to safer, hidden caches. Amenhotep I's mummy was among those carefully rewrapped and moved, eventually resting securely in a hidden cache at Deir el-Bahari, discovered in modern times. The fact that his mummy was moved suggests the original tomb had been compromised or threatened, further complicating the archaeological search for his original burial site. The deliberate relocation and concealment of his remains leave modern archaeologists with few clear clues regarding the original tomb's precise location. In recent years, modern archaeological teams have increasingly used advanced technologies to search carefully for Amenhotep's lost necropolis. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imaging, and remote sensing technologies have been employed at Dra Abu el Naga and surrounding areas, hoping to detect hidden chambers, tunnels, or burial structures buried beneath the surface. Satellite surveys in particular have revealed promising anomalies in this region, potential subterranean structures that could indicate previously undiscovered tombs or burial complexes. These technological methods allow archaeologists to investigate beneath the sands without intrusive digging, offering careful and methodical ways to potentially identify Amenhotep's lost burial place. Recent excavations in the Theban necropolis have also uncovered significant finds related to Amenhotep I's era, including tombs, artifacts, and inscriptions referencing his reign and associated officials. Archaeologists have unearthed valuable evidence confirming extensive royal and elite activity in this area during Amenhotep I's time, supporting theories that his tomb likely lies nearby. Yet despite these important discoveries, the precise tomb itself continues to evade identification, remaining quietly hidden beneath the sands or obscured beneath later structures. Amenhotep I's burial also holds a particularly revered place in ancient Egyptian memory. He and his mother, Ahmose Nefertari, were worshipped extensively after their deaths, becoming central figures in religious cults and regarded as divine protectors. Amenhotep's tomb may have served not merely as a royal burial site, but also as a pilgrimage and religious center for ancient Egyptians. Identifying his burial place would greatly enhance historical understanding of the cult surrounding him, revealing deeper insights into ancient Egyptian beliefs and practices around death, rebirth, and ancestor veneration. Historical texts reference rituals and ceremonies conducted at Amenhotep's tomb, further emphasizing its significance and highlighting how much historical information remains hidden until its location is confirmed. Further complicating the search, Amenhotep I ruled during an era when Egypt transitioned from earlier burial practices towards the establishment of the Valley of the Kings as a royal necropolis. His tomb likely reflects this transitional period, possibly combining elements of older traditions with emerging royal burial conventions that defined later 18th dynasty tombs. Understanding Amenhotep's tomb design and location would thus greatly clarify this transitional phase, illuminating how Egyptian royal burial practices evolved during this critical historical moment. Modern Egyptologists and archaeologists continue searching carefully and methodically for Amenhotep's lost necropolis, hopeful that ongoing excavations, technological advances, and careful study of historical texts might someday provide answers. Each newly discovered tomb or artifact in the Theban area offers potential clues, incrementally guiding researchers closer to identifying Amenhotep's original burial place. Yet, until definitive evidence emerges, the precise location of his tomb remains a compelling mystery, quietly inviting continued exploration and investigation. Hidden somewhere beneath ancient sands, our attention turns now to another remarkable achievement of Egyptian civilization: the precise engineering behind Egyptian obelisks. These slender, towering monuments, carved meticulously from a single piece of granite, have stood for millennia as proud symbols of ancient Egyptian skill and ambition. But beyond their beauty and symbolic meaning lies an enduring mystery. How exactly were these massive structures crafted, transported, and raised so precisely by people who lacked modern engineering tools? Egyptian obelisks first appeared prominently during the Old Kingdom, but reached their height of construction and refinement during the New Kingdom, around 1500 BC. Typically associated with sun worship, obelisks symbolize the rays of the sun, embodying the divine power and eternal strength of the gods, particularly the sun god Ra. Pharaohs often erected them at temple entrances or significant religious sites to honor the gods, commemorate military victories, or showcase royal authority. Carved with hieroglyphs celebrating kings and deities, these structures were designed not just to impress, but to communicate clear messages of power, divinity, and permanence. Creating an obelisk required astonishing technical skill, meticulous planning, and specialized craftsmanship. First, workers quarried enormous blocks of granite, often from Aswan in southern Egypt, a quarry known for exceptionally durable and beautiful stone. Quarrying granite without metal tools was a painstaking task. Ancient Egyptians relied on simple tools like copper chisels, wooden wedges, and stone hammers, using fire, water, and physical force to split massive granite blocks carefully from bedrock. These techniques demanded precision, patience, and an exceptional understanding of geology and material strength. The famous unfinished obelisk still lying at Aswan offers remarkable insight into the process. Abandoned due to a crack, it vividly demonstrates the sheer difficulty and careful planning involved in carving these enormous monuments directly from solid rock. Once quarried, craftsmen shaped the obelisk meticulously. Each obelisk was carefully carved, smoothed, and polished using sand, abrasive stone, and water, gradually refining its surface to incredible smoothness and precision. Hieroglyphic inscriptions were carved with equal care, ensuring clarity and durability across centuries. This meticulous workmanship required highly skilled craftsmen who spent their lives mastering techniques passed down through generations. Every stage, from quarrying to final carving, was overseen carefully by master craftsmen and supervisors, ensuring exactness in every detail. Transporting these massive granite monuments from quarry to erection site presented another impressive challenge. Some obelisks measured more than 30 meters in length, weighing hundreds of tons. Ancient Egyptians solved this engineering puzzle with remarkable ingenuity, employing teams of laborers who maneuvered enormous stone monoliths onto sledges, rollers, or rafts. Archaeological evidence and historical texts suggest Egyptians used carefully prepared roads and ramps to move obelisks overland, with sledges lubricated by water or oil to reduce friction. For longer distances, Egyptians transported obelisks down the Nile River on specially constructed barges, carefully balanced and stabilized to handle the heavy load. The logistical planning behind such transport was meticulous, demanding exceptional organization. Egyptian texts suggest the capstone represented the final and most sacred component in pyramid construction. Placed ceremonially atop the structure during elaborate religious rituals celebrating the pyramid's divine completion. Yet despite its spiritual significance and careful construction, the Great Pyramid's capstone has been lost for centuries. No definitive historical record clearly describes its disappearance, leaving archaeologists and historians quietly puzzled. Numerous theories propose explanations, ranging from natural erosion and deliberate removal to theft or destruction. Yet historical certainty remains elusive. By the time later civilizations and explorers documented the pyramid, its capstone had already vanished, quietly removed at some uncertain point during Egypt's long history, leaving behind a flattened summit, absent of its crowning jewel. One widely discussed theory suggests the capstone might have been deliberately removed or destroyed during ancient times, possibly due to religious or political shifts. Throughout Egypt's history, particularly in periods of religious upheaval or political instability, symbolic monuments associated with earlier rulers or beliefs were frequently dismantled or defaced. Ancient Egypt experienced numerous periods when temples, monuments, and tombs were deliberately damaged or plundered, either to reuse materials or symbolically erase earlier beliefs. The Bemben stone atop the Great Pyramid, with its profound religious symbolism and precious materials, could have become a tempting target for removal, either as a symbolic act or simply to reuse its valuable stone or gold plating. However, historical evidence explicitly confirming such deliberate removal remains limited, leaving this theory intriguing but speculative. Another possibility is that the pyramid's capstone was removed gradually over time, as local populations or later rulers harvested building materials from ancient monuments. Throughout Egyptian history, particularly during economic or political hardship, residents frequently quarried stones from ancient sites for new construction projects, temples, palaces, or public buildings. The polished stone or precious materials comprising the capstone would have been particularly valuable for reuse. This slow and practical dismantling may have quietly removed the pyramidion without leaving behind explicit historical records. Archaeological evidence around Giza and throughout Egypt confirms widespread reuse of ancient building materials, lending credibility to this quiet, incremental scenario of removal. Some Egyptologists propose a simpler explanation that natural erosion, weathering, or earthquakes gradually damage the capstone, causing it to weaken, crumble, or fall. Although the pyramid's massive lower stones have endured remarkably intact, smaller stones, such as the capstone, could have experienced gradual erosion from wind-blown sand, desert storms, or seismic events. Over centuries, these natural forces might have quietly reduced the Benben stone to fragments, eventually scattering or burying its remains beneath surrounding sands. While plausible, this explanation leaves unanswered questions, such as the absence of identifiable fragments nearby, or clear archaeological evidence confirming natural collapse. Modern researchers and archaeologists carefully examine historical records, pyramid inscriptions, and archaeological evidence, seeking subtle clues behind the Benben stone's mysterious disappearance. Advanced technologies, including detailed satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and precise archaeological excavations, continue investigating carefully around Giza's plateau, hoping to identify potential remains or clues about the capstone's fate. Recent archaeological projects around Giza occasionally uncover ancient construction tools, temporary ramps, workshops, and smaller fragments of carefully worked stone. Each discovery incrementally clarifies how the Great Pyramid was constructed, yet no clearly confirmed evidence of the capstone's remains or fragments has definitively emerged, ensuring this particular mystery remains quietly unresolved. Historical texts and religious inscriptions from ancient Egyptian temples and tombs vividly confirm the Benben stone's profound spiritual significance. Ancient Egyptians believed the pyramid's capstone embodied divine radiance, symbolizing eternal rebirth and Pharaoh's immortal journey to the heavens. Carefully placed atop pyramids during elaborate rituals, the Benben stone linked earthly life to eternal divine power. Later, Egyptian temples prominently displayed sacred stones resembling pyramidions, reinforcing their symbolic power. While historical records confirm Egyptians deeply revered the Benben stone, they curiously remain vague about precisely what occurred to the pyramid's original capstone atop the Great Pyramid itself. Today, Egyptologists, historians, and archaeologists carefully continue exploring subtle clues, patiently analyzing inscriptions, historical accounts, and archaeological data, seeking answers about the capstone's disappearance. This subtle historical puzzle illustrates how even the most iconic monuments conceal mysteries beneath their massive stones, reminding observers of history's complexity and subtlety. Our path now shifts toward another quiet but intriguing puzzle hidden within Egypt's ancient sands. Why, after centuries of monumental construction, Egyptians abruptly ceased building pyramids. For nearly 1,000 years, Egypt's rulers erected enormous stone structures that stood proudly against the sky, symbols of power, immortality, and divine authority. Yet, rather unexpectedly, this extraordinary practice came to a quiet halt around the end of the Middle Kingdom. The reasons behind this shift remain subtle and complex, embedded within Egypt's shifting culture, economy, and religious beliefs. The era of pyramid building, lasting roughly from the Third Dynasty through the Middle Kingdom, represents Egypt's profound dedication to monumental architecture. Pharaohs such as Djoser, Khufu, Khafre, and Sneferu constructed awe-inspiring structures that defined their reigns and Egypt's cultural identity. These pyramids were not simply royal tombs, they were symbols of stability, eternity, and connection to the divine. However, by the start of the New Kingdom period, roughly around 1550 BC, pharaohs moved away from these grand pyramids, choosing instead hidden tombs in the Valley of the Kings. This transition marked a major shift in royal burial practices, quietly reflecting deeper changes within Egyptian society itself. One practical explanation for this change was a concern for security. Although pyramids symbolized royal power, their sheer size and prominence made them irresistible targets for thieves and grave robbers. Despite intricate systems of false chambers, hidden passages, and protective curses, ancient Egyptian texts repeatedly record thefts and desecrations of royal tombs. Pharaohs and priests grew increasingly aware that pyramids, once symbols of eternal security, had become vulnerabilities, their treasures too tempting, and their structures too easily identified. Recognizing these challenges, Egypt's rulers gradually sought alternative burial sites, more secluded, hidden, and secure. The establishment of the Valley of the Kings reflected this practical shift. Nestled within remote cliffs near modern Luxor, the valley provided natural concealment, protection, and ease of defense. Tomb entrances were discreetly carved into rock faces, carefully hidden beneath sand and debris after burial rituals. By removing visible markers of royal tombs, pharaohs sought to deter robbers and protect their treasures and remains. Over time, the quiet, secretive valley became Egypt's preferred burial ground for royalty, permanently replacing the pyramid complexes once visible for miles around. Economic considerations also quietly influenced this transformation. Building monumental pyramids required enormous resources: labor, stone, food, and wealth drawn from all corners of Egypt. Such massive construction drained Egypt's economy and consumed vast amounts of state resources. Over generations, maintaining these ambitious projects became increasingly burdensome, especially during periods of political unrest, environmental challenges, or resource scarcity. Historical records suggest that Egypt's later pharaohs shifted resources toward practical infrastructure, military defense, trade expansion, and smaller-scale temples and monuments, prioritizing Egypt's overall stability and prosperity above monumental tombs. Additionally, religious beliefs gradually shifted during the Middle Kingdom and New Kingdom periods, subtly altering the Egyptian understanding of the afterlife. Early Egyptian beliefs emphasized physical monuments as crucial components for ensuring immortality and rebirth. Later, Egyptians increasingly relied on sacred texts, elaborate rituals, and spells like those found in the Book of the Dead to guide the deceased safely through the afterlife. Physical structures became less important, replaced by symbolic tomb decorations, elaborate religious rites, and inscribed amulets ensuring safe passage. These evolving beliefs quietly diminished the necessity for massive pyramids, enabling Egypt's rulers to confidently embrace simpler, concealed tombs. Furthermore, a cultural shift in power and religious influence during the New Kingdom period altered Egypt's architectural focus. Thebes, home to powerful priesthoods devoted to the god Amun, emerged as Egypt's spiritual and political heart. Temples became increasingly significant, not only spiritually, but economically.
Hey boss, give us that workout. Let us know how it works. All right, the great thing about this workout is it's in the water. So the harder you go, the more resistance you get. There's no annoying pains in the joints. Everything is nice because you're in the water. Another great thing about the water is that it cools you down. It cools the engine down. And another great thing is that you can go from one exercise into the other exercise. Now, we have 12 exercises. We split them up in groups of 3. Every single exercise, you're gonna do 25 repetitions, 3 in a row, and that complete thing you do 4 times. So 4 times, 25 reps, and then we go to the next 3 exercises. Let's take a look at the first 3 exercises. All right, the first 3 exercises. This one you know, swimming. Swimming, actually, you do like this. We do it like this because it's a workout, all right? Now, you see my right hand being above my left. I do 5 repetitions like this, as hard as I can, and then I go 5 repetitions with the right hand underneath. So both switch all the time. From this exercise, I go in the opposite. This, hold your hands like this, go back, go forward. This is really good for these muscles here at the front. I started doing these exercises to rebuild my muscles because of neck surgery. That's how I came up with these crazy exercises. The third exercise is going to be biceps, triceps, because I'm going to wear gloves. I'm going to show you in a little bit. I'm going to go biceps, triceps, biceps, triceps. This is the biceps, slamming it back is the tricep. Bop, 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 bop. This goes pretty fast. From here, right away, go in this set again, because we're going to do everything 4 times in total, 25 repetitions. First 3 exercises, remember? This one we're going to start, look what I do with my hands. I make them small so they go fast through the water, and then I do it again. From here, I'm going to go forward, sticking behind me, go forward, sticking behind me, but every time you have to make sure that you make yourself small so they stream and gleam through the water. Then right away I go to my back biceps exercise. Biceps, up and down. And then I come back to here and we're going to do the whole thing again. The next 3 exercises are pretty much the same. The only thing that we change is our hand positioning. We have had our hands like this. Now we're going to have our hands like this. Now, since I needed this muscle also to grow, because I lost that because of the neck surgery, I do it a little upwards because that it really hits the back here of my shoulders. Again, same thing as the first 3. My right hand is above. I go up 5 times, and after 5 times, my left hand goes on top. So every time I try to switch that. From here, I go forward, and this is what I do for real, hand claps. Try to make hand claps on the water because you're going to have to move a lot of water. But if you do that, if you focus on that, you automatically use a lot of power. And that's what you want to do in an exercise, right? Okay, the next one, the biceps, triceps, remember? Simply flip the hands. Now this is a triceps going down, going up. It's a little bit here, the side of the arm and the top of the shoulder. So, boop, 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 boop. Same exercise underwater. From here, right away, whoop, we go back to this exercise. Then we go back to this exercise. Boom, boom, and then we go back again to this exercise. Everything 4 times, 25 repetitions. Let's jump into the second group of 3. Now you can do it straight back if you like. I like to use this muscle here. I like to train this muscle, so I do it a little in an upward motion. And then I come back with the hand claps, remember? Boom, hand claps. From that on, I'm going to do my biceps, triceps, just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is triceps. This is the whole side of the arm. All right? Here we go. Up next, we're going to train our shoulders behind my back. Normal straight exercises. Right. The last 3 exercises. This first is shoulder. From the side, I lean over because then I can go higher with my hands. You see if I do lean over, I only can go this high. So that's why I lean over. I stab him behind me, up, 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 From there, I'm going to do exactly the opposite. Put my hands in the water, swing them down. Or if you want, you can go right and left and right and left, so to keep yourself better in balance. It's really good for your triceps as well, this exercise. The last one, another time with the resistance tool, I'm going to do biceps like this. Doing the exercise like this is really for the side of your muscle, of your biceps. And that's why, as you can see, I need a little bit filling here. That's why I do the exercise like that. Once again, 4 times each, everything, 25 repetitions. Good luck. All together now. Here we go.
Egyptians hoped their souls would similarly emerge reborn in eternal life. The book's spells frequently invoke Ra, Osiris, the god of the afterlife, and other deities whose favor was necessary to ensure safe passage. These gods represented key aspects of existence: death, rebirth, justice, and eternity, and their presence within the book reinforced its spiritual significance. The imagery of the Book of the Dead also included numerous symbolic scenes illustrating critical moments of the afterlife journey. Artistic depictions of the deceased successfully navigating dangerous trials and safely arriving at paradise reinforced the book's purpose as a powerful spiritual tool. These images, often beautifully illustrated on papyrus scrolls and tomb walls, help the deceased visualize their successful passage, offering spiritual reassurance and guidance. In modern times, scholars continue carefully analyzing surviving papyri, tomb inscriptions, and related archaeological discoveries to better understand the book's full significance. Advanced imaging technologies, digital analysis, and detailed linguistic studies have revealed new insights into the nuanced meanings behind individual spells. Yet despite extensive research, some mysteries remain. Subtle differences in wording, arrangement, and symbolism in various versions of the Book of the Dead raise intriguing questions about ancient Egyptian beliefs, social structures, and individual hopes for immortality. One ongoing debate among Egyptologists centers on whether the Book of the Dead should be viewed purely as a spiritual guide for the afterlife, or also as an expression of deeper philosophical, ethical, and psychological concepts. Certain scholars suggest these texts reflect profound philosophical beliefs about the nature of existence, morality, and eternal life, not merely practical guidance for navigating the afterlife. Others view it primarily as a ritualistic tool, focused more practically on ensuring the deceased's safe passage through specific spiritual tests. Likely, the truth combines both interpretations, reflecting a sophisticated blend of spiritual, ethical, and practical knowledge, carefully crafted over centuries. The Book of the Dead's careful preservation through millennia attests to its central role in Egyptian culture. Ancient Egyptians placed great importance on preparing for the afterlife, dedicating considerable resources and attention to these sacred texts. Yet its significance extended beyond individual burial practices. The concepts it embodied, justice, morality, renewal, and immortality, influenced Egyptian culture profoundly, shaping their values, religious rituals, and social behaviors. Modern research continues steadily uncovering new aspects of this ancient text, yet certain deeper layers of meaning remain elusive. Each newly discovered papyrus fragment, tomb inscription, or scholarly translation incrementally expands understanding, yet complete clarity may never be fully achievable. Ancient Egyptians crafted these texts with subtlety, symbolism, and spiritual sophistication, leaving certain concepts intentionally obscure or open to interpretation. The Book of the Dead therefore continues, holding both fascination and mystery, reflecting ancient Egypt's sophisticated spiritual beliefs and intricate cultural traditions. Turning now from the complex symbolism within the Egyptian Book of the Dead, we delve into another compelling enigma from ancient Egypt, the mysterious and untimely death of the young pharaoh Tut.
What's up, Eric? Yeah, man, it's amazing, dude. It is amazing. Miami's insane, man. How are you, buddy? Thanks for being here, man. Oh, how you doing, buddy? Here, let's make it nice. That's pretty good. It's a little better. What's up, man? Hope you're good, buddy. A little more parallel. What's up, dude? Hope you're good, man. I didn't bring my 64. I brought the emulator though. Oh. It's so nice, man. See, DeSantis just announced he's suing Biden again for the for the what's it called, contractors, specific for contractors, right? Because that's probably like the biggest infraction, right? Because they have a contract, right? So they're able to actually like work off something that's already been pre-approved by whomever, whatever the agreement is between the employer and the contractor, right? Which is completely independent of like federal mandates and stuff, right? It's gonna be good, man. And right now I'm just diversifying everything, right? Like, I want to get like US dollars, I want to get about Americans, but I can already tell they already have much more morals than like all of fucking Canada, including my friends and like my own fucking family. You know what I mean? And it's like, why the fuck am I going to fucking risk everything, save some fucking frozen shithole? Why don't I come here with the people that actually like are like smart and like have a spine? You know what I mean? Like fuck. You know, like they can go fuck themselves in Canada, man. But that's okay. I'm a little bitter, obviously, but it's like they got illegal Mexicans living here for their whole lives. I'll probably be fine. Yo, but Mexicans are like they're what's the word? Sneaky. They're fucking sneaky, man. they're smart. Fucking illegal Mexicans are fucking smart, sneaky, versatile. They're very versatile. Me, I'm a soft I'm a soft, sweet summer child. That's what the fuck I am. Like, I'm self-aware. I know that. I'm a fucking Terrence and Phillip fucking guy. You know, I know that. I'm not trying to take on the fucking world. You know, I'm just trying to fucking be free. So it's like I have a lot to catch up on in terms of hardship. Americans have gone through much more hardship. Alright. 17 views. 17 views. Look at that Shannon. Look at the Anyways.
Hello, everybody. This is Gerald Salenti, and it's Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Here are some of today's trends in the news. And remember, the trend is your friend. And we're giving the trends to you like nobody anywhere in the world. Trends Journal, history before it happens. And if you want to know history before it happens, you could subscribe. It's only $2.59 a week. As I said, this is the cover. This is the business section of the toilet paper record, the New York slime, for $6. Yeah, nope, nothing there. We used to have copy on the pages back in the day, but that doesn't exist anymore. Nope. Copy to copy. There it is. That's what it used to be. Nothing. Total fucking bullshit is what they're shoving down people's mouths, and they believe it. Anyway, going on, the markets haven't closed yet as we're going on. Yeah, but they're up a little bit. Brent crude still hanging in the $64 a barrel range. Bitcoin down a bit today. It's only $105,700. And gold's up $30, and it's still hanging around over that 3,300 mark. Let's see what it is right now. $3,315 an ounce. And remember, we called it a golden year for gold when gold was selling $2,041 an ounce. And that's why you subscribe to the Trends Journal. And again, the more subscribers we have, the more people will be informed of what in the world is going on and what to do. You know, someone sent me this. Actually, I think they posted it on the site. If you do not take an interest in the affairs of your government, then you are doomed to live under the rule of fools. Yeah, Plato said that. And that's what we got. The rule of fools. It's a fucking freak show. Oh, you like the little Macron, the little Gatson with no pecker and no balls because, oh, his wife slapped him. You see that? Oh, yeah, I'll be good. Bend over, take your piece. Yeah, little Starmer clown over there in the UK with an F for you to see that. Yep. It's a fucking freak show. And again, what Plato said is 100% correct, and we're on the side of Plato, and we're giving you to the facts. So, what else? China taps consumers to boost growth. Households are leery. That's one of the articles. Wall Street Journal. It goes on to say that in one initiative this year, the government had allocated $42 billion to expand the program for shoppers to buy. $42 billion? It's nothing, it's chump change. And again, China's problems were caused by the COVID war launched by China on their Chinese Lunar New Year, the year of the rat, 2020. They got a housing crisis that there's no end to. And the real estate market used to account for 30% of their GDP. This is serious. But again, on the AI side, as we said, China's going to lead the charge. But I would mention this because to show that the lives and livelihoods of hundreds of millions of Chinese were destroyed by those 3 years of zero COVID policy. Japan's debt, twice as big as economy, pushes limits. Yeah, this is in the toilet paper. And debt fueled public spending, relief aid during the COVID-19 pandemic morphed into new outlays for defense and subsidies. I'm mentioning this because they say relief aid during the COVID-19 pandemic. The World Health Organization called it a pandemic on March 11th, 2020, when the grand total of 4,219 people died out of 8 billion. The damage that's been caused by this, remember, it happens in January. They launch it January, February, March. 4,219 people out of 8 billion. They call the fucking thing a pandemic.
Thanks for being here.
So I'm just mentioning this because all of the economies around the world were artificially propped up, and now the end is near. And again, the office building bust is going to happen. The fact that nobody wants to talk about because more people are working at home, they're renting less and less space. Mortgages are the mortgages are due on these buildings, and they're going to be defaults because 5 years ago, the COVID war started, and when people take leases out in these big buildings, they're 5 and 10 years. You notice 5 and 10 years are coming up. So this is serious. Versace parent cuts views, yep, on their expectations from all lawsuits. Each week we have in the Trends Journal a section on what's happening in the luxury markets. It's very important. I was just talking about what happened in China. China was buying up stuff before they were big into luxury. They were booming. COVID came, boop, gone. The fish rots from the head down. Each week we have a special segment in your Trends Journal, what's going on in the luxury markets. Very important to see. GM turns attention to V8 engines, and they're pulling back from electric vehicles. Again, electric vehicles aren't big in the US. Tesla EU sales decline worsen. Yep. Down 52% in April in the EU. China's going up in AI. So you got to look at what's going on here. And now Musk pulled out for the Trump team on Doge. He knows how bad things are. This is an article, Tax Pledge for Seniors Falls Short. This is from the Wall Street Journal. The legislation passed by the House would give a temporary extra deduction of $4,000, which would lower taxes for many of the people Trump was targeting